All right, so hello everybody. We're going to go over the way of abiding again here today. Of course, I'm very lucky to be in our live gathering that are happening twice a day. Anybody's welcome to join. There is no registration, there is no payment required. You don't have to give your email. You just join a Jitsi chat, and you don't even need to turn your camera or your mic on, actually. So it's quite safe like that and quite open to any kind of participation. We have been going over this way of abiding, and we're on the fourth theme, which is oneness. Now, remember, all these themes are synonyms for awareness, per Longchenpa, per Richard Barron's translation of Longchenpa. So you have these themes of ineffability, of openness, of presence, and oneness, which are all synonyms for awareness. Another synonym for awareness, verbatim used in this text, is awakened mind. So we'll continue with that theme of oneness here, or inclusivity, suchness, dharmata, chutney, could be referenced in many ways. But perhaps a point that I could mention here is that you have countless synonyms for awakened mind. People may get caught up on the divisions like, oh, Rigpa's different than Vidya, or Mahasandhi is different than Bodhicitta, or awareness is different than pure consciousness. We can have all these discrepancies, but ultimately we want to be able to simplify this equation to mind, empty cognizance. Well, you'd have to give me an example of that. Dundrup saying, well, of course, there's no real bad. But Dundrup's asking, is it bad if you can experientially verify one samaya and struggle with the others? So, could you give me an example?
Ineffability is quite easy to experience and verify when you're getting up pointing out. Uh, the thing I recalled is, ineffability. Like nothing made sense. Um, I couldn't make sense of it. I couldn't describe it. But for example, oneness, evenness, it's less apparent for me, and the others as well, the same way.
Mm-hmm. If ineffability is truly actuated, then the other three would have to follow. It's antithetical to have ineffability and contraction together. So ineffability and openness go together. If you're not temporally displacing yourself, then presence is there. Ineffability is antithetical to temporality because time is an inference. Remember, you think of the past, you analyze the present, you worry about the future. These are inferences, displacements out of presence. So true ineffability leads to the others. You also have oneness or evenness because ineffability lends itself to non-inference. So, but evenness is what's resolving right now. Evenness is what's coming into being. The only thing we can really verify is when there's not evenness. That's what I was saying earlier in the talk. When there's a sense of referentiality, and then that referentiality says, am I enlightened? Am I not enlightened? But when that disappears, there's no one to say, really, I'm enlightened. I suppose you could, though. It could come from a non-referential mind, I'm enlightened. But in the tradition I'm familiar with and have been around, I've never heard any of my teachers say that. I've never read that, aside from thousands and thousands year old texts from Buddha Shakyamuni that claim that he said that, but I don't know, 2,500 years ago, did he really say that? And what was the language? How was it phrased? What was the context? Generally speaking, I don't think the Tibetans, for example, who are the bearers of these lineages, I don't think that they proclaim that. And I couldn't imagine sticking that stake in the ground saying, I'm enlightened. This seems a kind of like foolish. Mhm. So I don't know, but I went off on a little bit of a diversion there to your topic, but I think I answered your question. So let's any other questions before we get started on the way of abiding here on the four samayas? Pretty good so far. Okay. Om Mara Bhaja Na Di 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 Di. So another implication that can be discerned is that mental states of abiding and stirring do not constitute a duality. Wow, I love when everything's in synchronicity like this. Yeah, so you can reference the 51 or the 52 mental states there. Just because they happen doesn't mean there's duality. And the root verses say, in the natural context of evenness, with no split between objects and mind, rest free of any framework, with naturally pristine perception that leaves no trace. Timeless awareness, profound insight, is evident within the ultimate state of innate lucidity. So there the root verses is listing yet another synonym for timeless awareness, vipassana, insight, direct seeing. Of course. And the auto commentary says, by maintaining the awareness referred to in the two preceding source verses, one naturally experiences a state of pure clarity in which there is no split between objects and mind. So this is a direct reference to evenness. Remember, we've done little meditation experiments where we tune into the weight. What does it feel like when you reify a subject? You have the weight of that action into that object. So all three become psychic weights. You feel that referentiality. No, don't offend me, right? Or I must get more donuts or broccoli or whatever it may be. I must have the broccoli. That must have is the contraction of consciousness, is the psychic weight. And so then you're also giving that object legitimacy. You begin assigning that object with existence. You begin inferring an entity. Mhm. So subject, action, object gets into a plasticity, it gets patterned, it gets weighted. So now every time you see broccoli, I gotta have that broccoli. I'm the one who loves broccoli. But there, in the face of alleviation, there's evenness. I want some broccoli. Not I weighted down, wanting weighted down, broccoli weighted down. That making sense? Anybody confused about that? Pretty easy. Now, only in your open awareness could you even see that there's a feeling of a me. There's a feeling of a wanting. There's a feeling of broccoli being over there. Only within the basis for experience can that even be recognized. Or we should say exposed. Because recognition indicates that trichotomy. and exposure is free of that trichotomy. That's subject, action, object. So Longchen is saying, with one's gaze and consciousness focused in the immediacy of apparent phenomenon, inwardly it is evident that these are naturally pristine and leave no trace. You see why we utilize the open eyes. The perfect dynamic energy of the lion states, as lucid awareness regards the object, the nature of phenomenon, this awareness, free of complication, is perceived inwardly. As self-knowing awareness regards the diversity of objects, non-conceptual and supreme Dharmakaya is discovered inwardly. Now stay here for a second. You know, the translation is throwing that verse off to make it almost contradict what Longchen is saying in the first paragraph. Talking about great evenness, and then we have these terms like perceiving inwardly. Yeah, that one's almost incomprehensible to me, honestly. I feel like there's a deeper implication to that citation. But because of the translation, it's a little bit hard to find the point there. As lucidity regards objects, they're saying the objects is the nature of phenomenon. That's simply not true. The objects are the appearance of phenomena. So Dorje is saying awareness recognizes itself almost as if it was an object. Is that the main point there? Makes sense. It's calling the object the nature of phenomenon. This awareness is perceived inwardly. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's probably what Dorje Lepa said. So the great Garuda discusses how such implications are discerned. The implications of the spontaneous vast expanse, supreme and unsought, shout out to Mapang, can be discerned within the interval between apparent phenomenon and emptiness, in which nothing need be said or done. Yeah, to me that makes more sense there. The above passage is referencing the nature of mind which permeates so-called objects. That it's as simple as that. That between you and an object right now, there's awareness, there's mind. You can notice the empty space. There's a very subtle, lucid, hard to acknowledge because it's so subtle, lucid presence there. So the all-creating monarch states, since there is nothing to be done, do not act with effort. Since there is no frame of reference, there is freedom from any idea of meditation. Since there is no union and then separation, rest in the mind that does not forget. Yeah, the implication there is quite profound. Rest in the mind that does not forget. That's saying that your mind is here. Now, not too long ago, we're talking about something, and this is quite vital, I would say. And if you brought this up, let me know, because I think I forget who brought this up. It might have been Chökyi again, but anyway, we're talking about how it feels to be stuck in a dream, even trying to run or something like that. Everybody familiar with that? How you're really in there, you believe it, and there's this like visceral feeling of being in the dream. Can you relate to that? And then that feeling when you get out of it. Who was talking about that? That feeling when you get out of it, it feels totally different. Oh, was it Tao? Very nice. Well, that's a profound realization, because you have this feeling of, oh, I'm not in a dream anymore. Is it right? Well, just like that, that same somatic sensation is here right now with you. It feels like you're kind of stuck in a dream. Look for it. Let awareness find that. That feeling of the same feeling. It's a little bit not as tight, but it's the same feeling when you're in a dream of that isolation. Anybody notice it? That same feeling is here with you now? Very good. Very good. Yeah, and just seeing that, letting that be is good enough, okay? That's somatic constraint. Because what if your mind's doing the exact same thing? Yeah, it feels foggy. What if it's doing the exact same thing that it does when it's dreaming, but it's doing it on a little bit different scale? Yeah, we are getting into it here. We're not playing around. That's why I love you guys, man. I really do. Okay, and that did not come from me, that came from one of the practitioners who were sharing. Yeah, Annie Lee says, so maybe we're not here. Well, that's your mind is present, so we can't say totally not here. That would be a kind of nihilism, but yeah, your mind is in a sort of dream. That's what the yogis are seeing. So the six expanses Tantra states, in the nature of mind, which has nothing to do with acceptance or rejection, the manifestation of natural freedom without extremes is revealed by me, Samantabhadra, to be supremely pervasive, enlightened intent. Yeah, so right there it's saying awareness is going to reveal this to you. You don't need to reveal it to yourself. There's a grand divine part of your mind here, and it's going to set you free if we allow it. But if we keep chasing the basketball and reifying the basketball, see, my whole life is about this sense object, then awareness is going to say, okay, I'll let you be free. You go chase the donut. I'll be here waiting. It's possible, everybody, to find a contentment, a great peace that has nothing to do with sense objects. All right? Oh, yes. Very good. So any final thoughts, comments, questions, anything before we check out today? Yes, go right ahead.
It feels like I took I understood when you said when you have a dream there's a canvas. When I had that experience yesterday, it feels everything appears on the canvas, and that is actually very very liberating, because so we are actually in the dream at this experience on the canvas. Yes, that is how it feels. The whole universe, everything appears on a canvas. So we paint it with our mind somehow. If it is maybe simple language what I use, but it's quite liberating.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
you
I
sound
don't
like
need
a
to be
poet.
afraid of.
You sound like a poet right now. you know. Beautiful.
Yeah, first time I understood it when you said it. Yes, that feeling.
Yeah, spaciousness, insubstantiality, what they call emptiness, these kinds of things come into exposure. They come into fruition after recognition, conventionally speaking. We don't want to expect a pure luminous, empty cognizance right away, because we've spent a long time conditioning this cartoon into place. We spent a long time crystallizing and reifying appearances based on physicality, based on our urges to mate and war with each other and things like that. We need a platform. We need a game to play in. So we created this simulation, so we could play inside of it. But soon everybody's minds will become more even naturally because of AI even. The more you get tricked by these AI images and AI movies, eventually your mind's going to be, I'm not believing these. I'm not going to believe what I see so much anymore. And that's the psychic weight. It cracked me up to see this article of this Indian guy who made a MAGA account. That's a sort of, MAGA is this cult that we have in America of this, basically they follow Donald Trump and they're extreme sort of nationalists and things like that. But anyway, it was a nurse. She was a diehard Christian. She loved to show her boobs, and she loved ICE. She hated immigrants, and she was an AI generation, and it made money. It had a huge following until it got exposed as the Indian guy, and I just think that's hilarious that, a so-called minority is actually behind this nurse, um, and then it's like no contradiction that she's showing her boobs and she's a Christian. She's a diehard Christian. There's no contradiction in that whatsoever. So the more people get tricked by these things, eventually their mind's going to say, okay, I'm not falling for it this time. Those aren't boobs. Those are pixels. Or whatever you got to do to like make it real, man. Stop letting your mind play a trick on you, So this is going to happen more and more. Some people are going to be complacent with the artificiality. Others are going to be, well, there's going to be a great evenness that naturally takes place there. And people are going to stop believing with the sounds they hear and the sights they see. And most of our reality is based on the vision. So when people get evenness in their vision because they keep getting tricked by AI, well, could be a benefit. All right, so that's how it is. Everything is kind of AI, and stop getting into it so much, okay? You're being fooled. Oh yeah, very good. So I think it's time to check out, everybody. No, maybe about that, Anili. I am AI. Mhm. Don't worry, the great reveal is coming soon. All right, I think we can close out now then. Very good. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out and exploring the text together. Hopefully, Longchen is not going to rob a bank right now. Everything is good. Yeah, everybody have a beautiful day. So these sessions are considered very meritorious, very powerful. If that's the case, there are beings in this very presence that are suffering, and any merit that we have, wisdom, compassion, anything, I would take a moment of silence to give it all to them. And deep bow to you, everyone. Yeah, have a beautiful day, huh? Take care out there.